Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our fourth annual Founders Award series. Today is the fourth and final of four events that have happened each Thursday in May from noon to 1 o'clock. We have honored 8 outstanding women in our community for their accomplishments, their courage, and their example. And now let's take a look at the 2021 Founders Award honorees. Each honoree will receive this beautiful engraved silver plate tray donated by Krogan's Jewel Box. While we honor these wonderful women, we are also highlighting the work of Trident Literacy and the critical role women play in the education of their families. Women and girls around the world with low literacy face many challenges and are at risk for major issues, including poverty, sex trafficking, infectious diseases, incarceration, gender inequality, violence, and child labor. More than 43 million adults in the US cannot read, write, or do basic math above a third grade level. 65% are women. At Trident Literacy, 56% of our students are women trying to make a better life for themselves and their children. Research tells us that when women increase their skills, they increase their income. When they increase their income, they use their new earnings to improve their education, health, and nutrition, and that of their families. They become better able to read to their young children and help them with their schoolwork. They set an example. They teach their children that education is important. Thank you all for supporting Trident Literacy. You are changing lives and making the world a better place for all humankind. And now a special shout out to our founder, Pat Gibson. Pat had two experiences that led to the founding of Trident Literacy. Once she was asked by an older man at the local card shop if a greeting card said the right thing for his grandson. When she paid for her purchase, the clerk thanked Pat for helping the man and said, "He's in here all the time buying cards, but he can't read them." Another time at the voter registration office, Pat watched an older woman at the front of the line approach the desk. The clerk handed the woman an index card and told her that successful registration required her to read the card and follow the instructions. The woman turned the card over, upside down, around and about, studied it carefully, placed it back on the desk, and left. Since she couldn't read, she couldn't register to vote. Those experiences planted the seed that launched Trident Literacy in 1972. In the beginning, Pat matched up students and volunteer tutors and kept track on index cards that she kept in a shoebox under her bed. From that small shoebox, Trident Literacy has grown into an award-winning adult education program with locations throughout the Tri-County, providing instructions to more than 800 students annually with the help of 150 volunteers. In 49 years, tens of thousands of adults have increased their skills, earned their GED, learned English as a second language, gone on to higher education, training programs, and apprenticeships, and qualified for jobs. They have changed the life course for themselves and their families and reversed the cycle of generational poverty and illiteracy for generations to come. Thank you, Pat. As Margaret Mead so eloquently said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And now a big thank you to our sponsors. Thank you all very much. Now, as for the format for today's event, each of our honorees will give an opening statement. Then I will ask them a series of questions to keep the conversation rolling. We welcome your questions too, so please feel free to put them in the chat box. Interspersed in the program, you will hear from some of our sponsors and meet some of our students. Now it is my honor to introduce Robbie Scott, Director of Development and Community Relations at the Post and Courier, our equity sponsor.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Trident Literacy's 4th Annual Founders Award Series. The Post and Courier is proud to be the equity sponsor for the 4th consecutive year. The Post and Courier has an obvious stake in the fight against illiteracy. As the Lowcountry's leader in print and digital journalism, we stand on our award-winning content. But as long as there are members of our community that lack the basic skills necessary to read what we publish, our job is far from done. That's why we're here today. We understand that literacy has never been more important than it is right now. It is fundamental to both personal and community success. With the skills taught at Trident Literacy, our Low Country citizens can engage with confidence in the world around them, improve our community, achieve economic prosperity, and build productive lives for their families. On behalf of the Post and Courier, I enthusiastically congratulate all of the Founders Awards honorees. Congratulations also to Trident Literacy for your impressive 49-year track record of helping people change the course of their lives.
It's uncommon for a paper the size of the Post and Courier to have dedicated health reporters the way that we do. I think the Post and Courier has a keen ability to take the long view and to think through what stories are going to be the most important. We're able to take on some really complicated topics and make them understandable for people. Some of these topics are ones that the community might not know about otherwise unless the Post and Courier decided to write about them.
I now have the pleasure of introducing today's first honoree, Sue Hanshaw. Opportunities to help people get back on their feet and giving a voice to those in need have been the inspiration and life calling for Sue for nearly 40 years. Her skills were honed during her early job experiences in her hometown of Kansas City, Missouri. She worked a variety of positions, ranging from administrative assistant to owning the Jabberwock Gallery. She and her family moved to Charleston in 1983, and she helped run her husband's insurance business and opened a mother-daughter designer clothes boutique in the Rainbow Market. In 1990, Sue started volunteering at the Lutheran Social Services, and after 4 months, she became the executive director. Under her leadership, the ministry was expanded to become Tri-County Family Ministries, which has provided services to more than 8 million people. In 2015, she was honored as Trident United Way's Nonprofit Leader of the Year. Sue retired a second time as CEO and Chairman Emeritus of Tri-County Family Ministries in March of 2020 and continues to act as their ambassador. She and her husband Steve, a childhood sweetheart, had 2 children and now have 5 grandchildren and 2 adorable dorky pups. Sue is active in several women's groups and shares she can hardly wait to reconnect with all of her friends in person. Now, it is my distinct pleasure to honor and welcome Sue Hanshaw.
Thank you so much, Robbie. I'm honored to be here today and to share information and stories. But first of all, I'd like to tell you how I got started in my calling. Actually, it chose me. I grew up as a second child with 4 siblings, all different personalities. I evolved into the peacemaker and mediator in our family. In theory, I thought I was the oldest. In reality, I wasn't. So I learned that you had to speak up or nothing would change. And by my silence, it was okay for situations to continue with the family. Again, I didn't choose this part of my life outside of family and business. Clearly, it chose me. After 3 decades and 3 retirements, life has presented me with many opportunities through divine intervention, I believe, to be a catalyst for change in others' lives, such as the gift of being in the trenches and being able to observe and interact with hundreds of thousands of people from all walks of life. From the affluent to poverty-stricken, I've learned the key is to meet people where they are, to build relationships built on trust, empathy, understanding, cultural codes is probably the key, the most critical part of that. That is my calling. But in the meantime, let me share a couple of stories that were defining moments in my life. Every Sunday after school, as a little girl, we rode the church bus home. On one particular Sunday, we were seated a few seats behind 3 little girls. They were disheveled with matted blonde hair, ill-fitting clothes, attempting to be invisible in their seat. After a little time passed, some older kids started bullying them. Well, because of my background with my siblings, my protective side came out. I stood up, leaned over the seat, told the bullies that they should be ashamed and to stop. I told them I was going to tell their parents and the Sunday school teacher. They backed off. As we continued down a dusty road on the outskirts of town, the bus stopped at something that appeared to be wooden appliance containers. It was made into a home. So the parents came running out to say hello to the kids, to gather them. They didn't know what was going on. So, they walked on back into the house. When I had gotten home, I told my parents, I shared the story. They were distressed. They immediately called the pastor and the Sunday school teacher. But they said that they were very proud that a little girl would stand up to strangers. Okay. Apparently, the church intervened, and the good news is the father got a job at another church. They found a home, and the children got into a new school. It was a new beginning for them. So that was my first lesson in what you can do to help others, to make a difference in others' lives. You just have to speak up. You can't be silent. The second story, and this really had a huge impact. We all know the story of Oprah, marginalized, abused, but who made a difference in the lives around the world because of her early life experiences. This interview gave me a better insight into the lives of the oppressed. This was on her show. Oprah remembered sitting alone in the church fellowship hall in the back of the room. The governor and his wife were coming to visit that particular evening. The governor's wife spotted Oprah, went over to her and said, "You're as pretty as a speckled pup." Apparently, that was a very high compliment. This lady, who was very highly respected, took the time to praise a little girl who just needed someone to show how worthy, valued, and important she was. It's about the words and building trust.
Thank you, Sue. It's wonderful. I love the stories. That's just fantastic.
Thank you.
And I want to tell you, Sue, that we actually have a very special surprise for you from Tri-County Ministries.
Really?
We do.
Oh, okay.
Let's begin.
Hi, Miss Sue.
I've known Sue Hanshaw for over 30 years.
She's very deserving of this award.
Sue has been getting some recognition from the community here. Although I will say that's never been what it's about with her.
You deserve this award for all you did putting Tri-County together.
The work of Tri-County Family Ministries.
That's her heart, and that's Sue Hanshaw.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
And now it is my honor to introduce today's next honoree, Harriet Popham McDougal. Harriet was born in Washington, D.C. and moved to Charleston during World War II. She graduated from Ashley Hall and Radcliffe College. She is a poet and has a long career in publishing, including various positions at John Wiley & Sons, Harcourt and Brace-Yanovich. Hope I said that right, Harriet. I'm going to do it again just for you. Jovanovich. Did I get it right? Great. And World Publishing Company. Thanks, Harriet. She also served as editor-in-chief of Tempo Books and Ace Books, as well as vice president of Charter Communications, all under the Grosset and Dunlap corporate umbrella. In the late 70s, Harriet moved back to Charleston and started her own imprint, becoming founder and president of Popham Press, and published 22 titles. Subsequently, Harriet has become vice president and editorial director of Tor Books in New York, which she co-founded with two other partners. She has concentrated on editing fiction for the last 25 years and owned an art gallery along the way. She married author Robert Jordan in 1981. At the time, he was a penniless writer named James Oliver Rigney, and she was his editor. As it turned out, the editor-writer partnership lasted throughout their marriage and through all but one of his many books until his death in 2007. Since, Harriet has been CEO of Bandersnatch Group, which holds Robert Jordan's copyrights. His fantasy series, The Wheel of Time, is in production for a television series to begin airing in the fourth quarter of this year. And we all can't wait for that. Looking forward to it. Harriet has served Charleston Cultural and Service Boards, and she was very involved with the attempt to establish a Planned Parenthood clinic in the Charleston area. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Harriet McDougal.
Thank you, Roby. And I have found something between Roby and me. This is the carving for the dragons that were put on the gates that Roby's husband, Frank, built for us on a driveway that hadn't had a gate since the 19-teens. So it's a special, very special to us. I didn't really prepare an opening statement. My life has been about books and in books and with books. I wouldn't have it any other way, and I cannot imagine the sadness and loneliness of a life without the ability to read. It just wrings my heart to think about. So that's why I support Trident Literacy. And I am a tremendous believer in the strength of mothers teaching their children to read. In fact, my mother scolded me that I was not reading by 4. I really didn't learn to read until the 1st grade. So in my mother's view, I was really a dullard. I did learn.
Okay, I want to say you are both such an inspiration. You're role models to me. I've known you both for many years, and I'm always inspired. And I've already learned even more about you both than I knew before. But let's get started with the first question, okay? Now, please feel free to jump in anytime with really any words of wisdom you want to provide for us. Question number 1, this question is for Sue. Sue, you talked about some of the defining moments in your life, and I applaud you for having the courage to stand up to those bullies. You mentioned programs inspired by Oprah. Tell us about some of those programs and maybe give some examples of some people enrolled in them and how their lives were changed.
Okay, I'm happy to. Well, her story and my client involvement, it just was a perfect marriage because I could use her words, what we saw, her life, and help our clients. So that was what inspired me to help empower our clients, our girls, our women, to change their lives. So a few of the programs, and this is one that I really love that I wish someone else would take the helm here and move forward with it because it's a wonderful program, and it's called our Teen Angel program. We had teens from different middle schools were invited to participate in an after-school setting to hear from successful professionals in the community. And they had overcome many obstacles. They didn't have a silver spoon in their mouth. They had to fight to get where they were. So I invited them to come, and which inspired others. So there were attorneys, there was a mayor, there was teachers, there were a couple of sports people, just all kinds of people came to talk to these kids. There were 25 in a room after school, and we did it for about 4 years. A couple of other, what can I say, groups have taken off from that and started their own ministry for girls. But getting back to the teen angel, after graduation and listening to all the different people, their success stories, their trials, their tribulations, we had a graduation ceremony. The girls, I love this. The girls all were able to go out and buy new clothes. We gave them money. They went to the mall. They picked out an outfit for their graduation. They got roses. We presented them with roses. They got to choose where they wanted to go for dinner, which was fantastic. And so they did that. And then once they had their dinner, a limousine came and picked them up and drove them around town. So it was a wonderful night. It was a defining moment, I know, for them. They learned that they were special. So as a result of that, again, it was based on Oprah's life, of all the things, the horrible things that she'd been through. The people that would say, oh, woe is me, I can't do anything. Look what's happened to me. No, it didn't happen. She took it and she ran with it. And I believe it was because of the words of the governor's wife. So she came to town, gave a presentation. There was some big event, fundraiser for her in Charleston. And so I submitted a request for a grant from her foundation for ongoing programs. So we didn't get the grant, which shame on them, but at least we were on their radar for future opportunities. I'm not finished with that one yet, but we did receive honorable mention from her staff, and we got a basket of goodies. So I have those today. We moved forward with the program without the money because I've learned that sometimes you just don't have the money, you just move forward with it. And we did. So it went on for about 5 years and impacted a lot of kids. So that is one of them. That's the one from Oprah, watching her show. And then the Women's Breakfast Club, which we called Me Too. It's a special group of women that were at risk, abused, and they all had something in common. They just needed to bond and talk to someone, other like-kind women. So a social worker helped the ladies navigate and problem solve their life issues. Women could compare their stories about their struggles and their victories and things that were going on currently. The social worker was merely there to help them have a voice and to empower them. So that was highly successful. And normally everyone showed up. So it was really great. The other one was what we called our Women's Health Initiative. We partnered with MUSC, got a wellness bus to come to Tri-County on a monthly basis. Women received wellness checks, gynecological exams, as well as referral to those needing chronic care. And the main purpose, besides getting these women health care, sometimes for the first time in their life, was to break down the fear of doctors and the medical community. That's was a little bit of a cultural thing, which I didn't know. I felt it. And then I had a few ladies talk about it, the fear of it. Saved a few lives. A couple of them had cancer. And so we got them in the system. They got medical care. So the women, those that are marginalized, especially the girls and women in our community, sometimes just need an outside voice to validate their self-esteem and sense of trust. And these outside voices come from people like us, like Tri-County Family Ministries, like Trident Literacy. Eileen is out there talking to people. And those are just two of the organizations that are unselfishly giving to improve the lives of women and others in the community. And I'm thankful for that.
Thank you, Sue. It just goes to show that sometimes you just need someone to believe in you and someone to listen and offer a kind word, and it can change your life. Okay, Harriet, here's a question for you. One of the things we help our students with at Trident Literacy is choosing a career path. I'm so interested that you didn't learn to read till the first grade. It makes me feel so much better because either did I. Tell us how you chose your career path, and perhaps tell us how you managed to climb the ladder in the world of editors over the years. And did you encounter any obstacles because you're female?
What do you think? Yes, of course. But choosing my career, I did that at 12 or thereabouts. I was at a breakfast table in a friend's house and I was reading the side of the cereal box because there was nothing else on that breakfast table to read. But I heard somebody say something and I turned and said, you mean there's a job where they pay you to read? And that was indeed what the grown-up was saying. And I was a goner. I mean, that was obviously the career for me, because it's what I loved to do best in all the world. So that's how I chose. And I started out as a copy editor. There are numerous kinds of editor. And that's kind of the lowest. That's where you get to worry about commas and spelling and eye color if you're working on fiction, stuff like that. And I was asked to a meeting. The first time I was asked to a meeting out of the dog pit of copy editors. And they said, Miss Popham, what do you think? I was obviously young and maybe 22. And I had thought hard and long about the subject of the meeting, which I no longer remember. But I spoke, said what I thought. And all the men, they were all men except me, looked at me. And one of them turned away from me to his fellow men and said, where'd you get that accent, honey child? And I thought to myself, that's never going to happen to me again. And I did school myself to talk a sort of basic New York, I don't know what, language that didn't have any honey child in it. That was a lesson to me, that if you have a Southern accent, you are relegated to the woman thing or the moron. And better get rid of that Southern accent if you want to go ahead in business. So I did. And climbing the ladder wasn't easy. It was very difficult for me to climb the ladder, more as a mother than it was straight out woman. But I certainly know very few men who are mothers. So they're linked problems. And this was when I was leaving my husband. Nobody quite knew that yet. But my boss at John Wiley and Sons was leaving the firm to start his own firm on the West Coast. And he said, you're the only person I can recommend. And this was, it was a funny little department charged with rewriting the manuscripts on textbooks for the college, for the community college market, which is to say, made simple to understand. The professors were chosen because they would be popular to people to buy their books because of their names, but then they had to be arranged in this way. The text had to be dealt with. And I could not be considered for the job, the then boss told me, because I was a woman and I certainly couldn't travel because I had a little boy. Now, you know, I've never heard a man refuse a job because he had a little boy. But that happened quite often at a crucial stage in my career when I was embarking on being a single mother and trying to make enough money to live on at that juncture. So it kind of made an impression on me. And later on, I don't know, I guess I was always a good risk taker. I remember once I was told to go to a sales conference in some other city away from New York. And I said, okay, but I'm going to need childcare while I'm gone. Oh, you can't have that. I said, well, then I can't go. If you want me there, I need childcare. And so they exploded and actually paid for childcare, which was good. Other than that, I just went on my thing. But it worked out. I had a lot of fun and made some very good friends among the writers that I worked with over time.
Well, that is very inspiring. You're certainly a trailblazer. And as I mentioned before, we have a lot of single women in our program working to increase their skills and want a better life for themselves and their children. So we have lots more to talk about, but right now we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors.
When something's just right, it's hard to find, but easy to recognize. You know it's just the perfect fit. At South State Bank, that's us, the sweet spot between a big bank and a small one. So you get the services you need, combined with the service you need too. High tech and high touch. Sophisticated and simple. Right here at South State.
Meet Jacinto. Jacinto came to the U.S. when he was just 12 years old. He had not attended school since he was 11. He is whizzing through the program and has already passed 3 sections of the GED. He plans to go to college.
Okay, let's go with question number 2. All right, Sue, this one's for you.
All right.
Can you share some personal stories regarding your experiences and how they were rewarding to you? I know in our conversations, you mentioned running into some of your former clients. Tell us about some of those.
I'd love to. I've got so many stories. I'm just trying to give you a few that really touched my heart. But I would say one of the main ones is during the pandemic over the past year and the workers. So because of the pandemic, I would go go to fast food places, number one, just to get out of the house. And I would frequent those. I'd go to Costco when it was okay to go, Harris Teeter, other stores. But I think one of them that really got me was a little person that a sweet little person at Tri-County that was a client and a volunteer at one time. Anyway, he got a job at Harris Teeter, and I was checking out one day, and I heard this voice booming across the aisle saying, Miss Sue, it's me. And I'm going, oh, hi. And anyway, touched my heart. He said, I got a job, and I can carry your groceries. Let me carry your groceries. I got a job. And I thought, that is such a blessing. He has a job to this day. He also helps my husband carry out his groceries. So blessing. It was a blessing. It was a little guy that I don't know that he'd ever have gotten a job, but he just went in, he interviewed. We built him up at Tri-County, of course, taught him a few skills, and he's working. So I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled about that. The other one is the homeless community, making Christmas for an impoverished family. Several of you have several of our known homeless veterans learned about a woman fleeing domestic abuse. I mean, it was a bad situation. She was fleeing with her 3 children. They were living in a small apartment, if you want to call it that, and were about to be evicted. She had little food, no presents for her children. They were all under the age of 10. It was a few days before Christmas. Tri-County always had a big Christmas party for the community. Normally, we will have about 2,000 people in attendance. A lot of our clients, a lot of people from the community that wouldn't have Christmas otherwise. And little did we know that in that group, there would be 3 veteran homeless men that were going to do a good deed, a wonderful deed for this family that had no hope. So not only did they take up a collection to pay for her rent, they delivered toys, hats, coats, and anything else they could find for the children. They also, actually, I think they took this tree, but it's okay. It was a Christmas tree that we had outside Tri-County that we weren't going to use anyway. They decorated it with little paper loops all over, took it to the family so that they would have a Christmas tree. They gave them a feast of turkey, sides, and canned goods to be shared with the family. The mother was absolutely, completely overwhelmed and cried with joy, knowing that 3 strangers would go out of their way to help she and her children so that they would have Christmas and shelter. The men also gave her information about Tri-County and the services that were available so that she could get vital assistance after the holidays. So we gave her hope. Hope is what it's about. So when the center opened after Christmas, the Good Samaritans and the mother and the 3 kids came into my office, and they said it was the best Christmas ever. They all had tears in their eyes. And I think the moral to this story is don't judge people because they're homeless. They all have a story. We don't know what their story is. They may have PTSD from the service, which I think a couple of them did, but everyone has a story. So don't judge. Don't judge. The other little story, Eileen, I think you'll like this one. This touches me, is about our Healing Hands ministries. Tina came to my office very emotional, saying she was couch surfing with friends because of an autoimmune disease that left her without a home. She had been an employee of a local hospital for over 10 years and ran out of resources because of her disease. Many doctors that I personally know that are my doctors, nurses, and other staff helped as much as possible. But her prescriptions for her rare illness were cost prohibitive, but desperately needed to control her temperature and seizures that she had. She came to us. I sent her to the health ministry. We got a grant for her meds. She didn't have to pay anything. She was put on permanent disability because of our in-house attorney. And that was definitely a team effort. That took a little while, but she was able to move into a little studio apartment with appropriate climate control. She was forever grateful. And she said it did save her life. And I believe that it did. And so I have another story that's not quite so rewarding, but interesting. And it tells you how things change when you take chances on people. We were getting ready for Easter dinner at Tri-County again. Sam's Club donated a bunch of small frozen hams for our dinner. One of my very favorite client volunteers, I do have favorites, from the community decided that he would help himself to the hams and sell them to a few convenience stores in the neighborhood or anybody else that had a few dollars to buy one. He was seen the evening before our big dinner carrying a huge trash bag, like the Grinch that stole Christmas, had it over his shoulder, and was pulling a wagon with another bag. The next morning, thankfully, the chef had stashed some of the hams and had a few turkeys that were ready to cook. We had a lovely dinner. My not so favorite client volunteer was banned from returning to the center and a police report was filed. He came back 2 years later and begged to be given another chance. He was sober. He worked for another 5 years without incident and was one of my best volunteers. You just have to remember what happened. You don't put people, desperate people, in situations where they have to steal to survive. But that was a good story. That turned out to be good. So those
are all very heartwarming and inspirational stories. I want to I don't
Certainly
know.
are.
Yes, I don't know if you can see what's in the chat, but Sue, there's a chat from Leola McFadden. She says, "Congratulations, Miss Sue, on your award. The work you have done in the community has been a wonder to watch. You have changed lives and have impacted many on so many levels. TFM's beginning is because of you. God bless." And Harriet, here's one for you from Judy Ann. Remember Judy Ann? She says, "Hi, Harriet, and congrats. You have always been one of my favorite ladies. Thank you for all you have done for Trident Literacy in the Charleston community."
Oh, well, thank you.
Harriet, I have a couple of questions for you. And I'm just going to throw them all out there, and then you can just have a free-for-all. Okay. I've always wondered, it sounds like the roles of editor, and I know in your bio you were a ghostwriter. It kind of makes you a behind-the-scenes person. And yet you are responsible, like you say, not only for every period and comma, but for all of the phrasing and all of that can make or break a writer. And we also know that you're overseeing the production of your husband's famous Wheel of Time series for TV. So, expand a little bit more on the role of an editor, how you work with your authors, and you must deal with various personalities. And also, what is the Wheel of Time series really about?
Okay, that's a big menu. What the Wheel of Time is really about is good and evil and what people do when they're alive. It's written as fantasy because mainstream fiction, my husband used to say, is written about depression, for the depressed, by the depressed. It generally does not touch on the basic questions of how do you know what the right thing to do is in any circumstance. How do you know where is good, where is evil? In fantasy, these issues are dealt with clearly, and that's why he liked writing it. Now, what else did you ask me about? I have a little.
I was asking about, is the role of an editor, is it a backseat? Is your name on everything? It's the author who gets the promoted.
It's the author who makes it. And the role of an editor at my level was two-pronged, which was to buy the rights to the book. How much should we pay this guy for what it is that he wants to write? And also to be a first trusted reader of the manuscript, to tell the writer what a loving spouse would say about what this section. Jim, my husband, used to say, "Well, Harriet, you say, gee, that's a beautiful section. And Jim was thinking I could cut that. But then you'll come to a section I'm really proud of, and you say, oh, this is boring, cut it." So it's to be the first reader to see what the writer can't quite see by him or herself, because people are too close to what they've written. It's theirs, and it's perfect in every way because it's theirs. We all do that. If I bake a cake, it's the most beautiful cake, no, it isn't. But same with the manuscript. So the editor steps in. There was a cartoon in the New Yorker years ago of a writer sitting at his computer. It was that long ago. And up in the sky over him is a lovely, buxom lady draped in a little teeny scarf. And she's on a cloud and she has ringlets. And she's beautiful. And in through the door comes somebody who looks very much like Ruth Bader Ginsburg with a satchel and a black suit. And she says, "Hello, I am your editor." And the one on the top is, of course, the muse, doesn't even have to be labeled. So it's bringing a free intellect to bear on this thing you've written with the aid of the wonderful muse up there to help make it better.
Do they always want to listen to you, though?
No. But eventually they do, or else I'll back down.
Wonderful. Okay, we're going to take a quick break to hear from another one of our sponsors. And then if we have any time left at the end, we'll throw out a few more questions.
What sets the Steinberg Law Firm apart from other firms is our genuine compassion and desire to help each and every one of our clients.
Our motto of getting the firm behind you says it all.
We have a great track record representing injured folks.
Everybody collaborates on each case together.
We have a collective mission and a passion to help injured workers. Get the firm behind you.
Okay, we have some questions coming in by text and also on the chat and also some others. So I tell you what, we're almost out of time, but I'm going to throw out all of these questions and then you can answer any one that you want. Okay, what advice would you give to women or to anyone? You've both mentioned some advice already so far. What are some important lessons you've learned over the years that you could share that we can benefit from? Or what books are you reading now or have you read lately that you recommend? And Sue, this one came in for you. When did you know that God was calling you to Tri-County Ministries? Was there a specific sign? So Harriet, you go first this time. If you don't like those questions, you can just answer anything that you want.
Well, I will. Gosh, there was something I didn't mean to tell you and I didn't. When I was a new divorcee, I was moving to Brooklyn with my son, who was then 2, and I was trying to open a charge account at Abercrombie and whatever their names were. Fitch? No, it was the local Strauss, I think. It was where Brooklyn matrons went to shop. And so I filled in the papers and I was heading for the escalator when the woman who had given me the forms came and said, "But they need your husband's name on this account." I said, "My husband? I wouldn't let him anywhere near my credit. I guess I would get the account here. Thank you." And I had one foot on the escalator going down. My son would say, "Mom, if these pistol Pete Maravich sneakers he had on, will they be really fast?" And I said, "Yes, fast. They'll be fast." And said, "You are." When the lady came back and said, "Well, we'll give you the account." Wow. Anyway, beware letting your ex-husband touch your credit.
Good advice.
Yep.
Eileen, I think.
And thank you, Sue. Gosh, for all you do in this community, you're just wonderful.
Oh, thank you. So are you. So are you. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Eileen,
Well,
yeah.
we won't get into that fight, but I'm just so impressed hearing about all the things you do.
Yeah. And I think you said something about what would you do? What would you tell women that just need a hand up, if you will? We have to respect, I believe this deep in my heart, you have to respect a family's culture, again, by meeting people where they are, and then using those tools, that new knowledge that you're trying to impart, and you're listening to what the other person has to say, to how to lift them, giving them the tools to lift them out of their situation, and never to accept second best, never. Because you're going to hear a lot of no's. Women have issues. I mean, a lot of issues, people look down and say, no, well, you can't do that. It's a different day. It's not happening. It's not going to happen on my watch. I think, Eileen, you know that. Yeah, we're here. But you have to be able to give, I believe, people skin in the game, like they're getting their GED. They have to study. They've got skin in the game to move forward with their lives. And to me, that is what it's about. It's even getting that little job, whatever it is, that's meeting them where they are. They aren't going to be IBM executive or whatever, but it's meeting them where they are. And that is their truth. That is where they're at. And I think someone said something about, how did I know this was my calling? I've known it all along. I knew when I was a little girl. It was just, again, divine intervention. And I think we all have that in some way or another, that care about people, and meeting people.
Just the way my calling was to read.
Yes.
I knew that.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Exactly. We love what we do, don't we?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Well, we are.
And I love Eileen and all she does and has done.
Well, I love both of you very much, and you are both very special to me, and you have both taught me many, many valuable life lessons. And I know that today, everyone who is watching this must feel emboldened and strengthened and empowered. And I know I am a lot wiser and better off than I was 1 hour ago. And I thank you both very, very much. We're proud to honor you today with Trident Literacy's Founders Award 2021, which I will be hand delivering to you within the next week.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone so much for joining us today. I hope you have enjoyed our virtual series. Next year, we hope to be back. Well, we will be back with an in-person event, and a really big one too, since we'll be celebrating Trident Literacy's 50th anniversary. So stay tuned, and please enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Eileen.
You too.